that are not having their water stolen.
Okay, this is our second show of Serio. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Hopefully you get to see this. We don't get like blacked out.
Yeah, blocked or canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did we do our introductions or how did we do that last time?
Did we even do introductions? I'm Blanca.
Isabel.
And I'm Anita.
I think.
And we're in Serio.
And today it's really exciting.
Oh my goodness, yes. For real.
Today it's
Been kind of, so we originally wanted to actually, our plan was to talk about Desal because they had a meeting earlier in the week about it, a little propaganda campaign, but or not earlier, it was last week, no?
Last week, yes, they were gonna present a lecture series, an educational Desal presentation. They took it on the road and they took it to the wrong bay. They took it to the Oso Bay Wetlands Preserve. And so they were using a city facility, a Parks and Rec facility. They used, city employees. And it was a propaganda. It was not educational. There was a lot of misinformation and a lot of lies spread at that lecture, educational. And one of the things that really bothered me about it was that when we walked up to attend the lecture that was for adults and it was open to the public and we registered for, and we have every right to be in a public Parks and Rec building, we were stopped and we were lectured about what type of questions were acceptable, what that lecture was and what it wasn't. And I found that really disturbing from an educator, from someone who calls himself an educator and who puts on education programs. And then the whole Desal thing became just, it was just propaganda. It wasn't really anything educational.
And so we thought it would be a really good idea to go ahead and actually tell you all what we've learned in the process of trying to understand what Desal is, what the city's moving arguments are about it, and like what researchers and scientists have been saying about it. And so that was our original intention. But
yeah, I mean, full disclosure, we are community members, first and foremost. Like, we don't have a background in science where we're, analyzing all of the data day in and day out, like as a profession, but it has become that because of everything that is happening in this area. Like, I'm a community organizer, that is like what I am. And, with everything that's happening around us though, like it has concerned me greatly. And so I think like that's how come we're here, and this is how come we're doing it, because we were always seeking the answers and it was like, whew, like here. And so, we understand what it's like to not be able to have this information that's accessible to us. And I think like you'll hear from everybody, we can't go to the media and find data there and, accurate reporting. As Blanca mentioned, we can't even go to a city sponsored event and get accurate information from there.
Or fair treatment. At this point, we're kind of being shut out of certain places. We're being blocked. I personally have had my email blocked from the city. I've had comments hidden on the local media. I've seen a lot of lies in the local media and even on some of our politicians' personal pages.
And I actually don't think that our elected officials read the reports that are submitted, because I think there's two things that wind up happening. When you read information, you learn, right? And the more often you read, the more you're able to grasp. But when you're reading that information and then you center people and the quality of life and just thinking about like the impacts of a ton of pollution on our air, water, and soil that we live in, that you start to ask questions. And there's big holes because you're looking like maybe it's somewhere in these documents, or oh wait, they said this thing at this meeting and then they said this thing at this meeting, and if they're gonna do that over there, they're gonna do that over there, they're gonna do that over there. Like, you know, it's like a big pile on. And so they never ask the questions. In fact, they like, before they started fighting about the desal thing, they used to be like, oh, I'm so proud and so happy that, oh, thank you for coming up. Oh, and I can just call you up and ask you for, oh, thank you. Oh, I'm so grateful for you. Oh, right? It was,
Our presenter said, when we asked pointed questions about actual numbers and actual, and I quote, she said, we have a super sophisticated report and super sophisticated people and super sophisticated rate models. And no.
They're cartoons.
I mean, if they're being sophisticated, I don't know, because they throw globs and globs of money at it, does not mean that there's any substance and that they have. And I do just want to add that we have, as far as like the applications, we have had someone with scientific background help us and analyze that. But as far as the community work and you know, just the community, what they have in store for us as far as water restrictions, that is just been out of our necessity to find out what's going on, and to just, it probably, yes, has now become, for me personally, it was initially desalination, and I thought that it was wrong. I thought the location where they were trying to put it very close proximity to people I love and care about, in a body of water that I grew up fishing and swimming in. And now it's grown, it's like a multi-headed monster now. And so I think right now, even more pressing than desalination, which we know is for more of this and more restrictions and more, not a drop of it for us. We have like this pressing issue, I think, that Ms. Ariza found that I think is pretty urgent.
yeah, so what we decided to do is that we need to talk about the drought and the, like, remember we're in stage 1 and drought restrictions. So we've shared it on our pages about how, you know, they were talking about if you don't water your yards on the day that your trash is supposed to, on the evenings when your trash is supposed to be picked up, or before 10 and after 6, I think is the rule, you can be fined up to $500. And then they also said, here's a number. If you see your neighbors or somebody violating this thing, then report them using this number. And it's like, wait a second.
Report violations over and over, and they put up their snitch line, which we don't.
Snitch
how much do they
line,
spend on the snitch line.
Right.
And
And they're gonna send code enforcement out around to kind of
code
control.
enforcement at night. I read one Facebook comment that said a person was watering with well water and their door was knocked on at 7 a.m. in the morning. And they were told to turn it off. And again, the city, you know, rather than apologize to this person, just restated what the person said, which was, no, you're allowed to water with your well. Well, this person already knew that, they already told you that, but they never addressed why they're getting their door banged on at 7 a.m. in the morning. And that, just the idea of that, the idea of how we're being restricted, how we're being encouraged to tell on each other, how we're being monitored, I mean, really like surveilled. They're driving around at night looking for people who are watering outside, and we get 1 day to water our yard.
Yeah.
And even further than that, you know, irrigation, we get it, that's probably, but
Yeah, I mean, and to, you know, go back to the meeting that Blanca spoke about earlier, with Desal, we were told that the national average is about 150 to 162 gallons per day that individuals use. And Corpus is way below that national average. I think it's about 66 gallons per day that individuals use. So we're already like exceeding the numbers, you know, what personal, you know, accountability. We're already going above and beyond, you know, in our water usage. And
our water bill's more expensive.
It's
Water
water bills
the
are
highest in
more
the country.
expensive. You know, my brother, they have a bigger home, they live in San Antonio, and where we live, like our house is probably half the size, and our water bill is twice the amount.
I know I have a sister in Austin. She said, I've never gotten a bill as high as you. I've never gotten a bill that high. And I know we personally left and locked up, and we took a travel job in our house. was closed up for a complete month. It was 0 usage, and I have the bill somewhere, 0 usage, and it was $150 bill, just 0 usage, not a drop of water.
Yeah, so we're paying a lot, we're not using as much. Then they want us to tell on each other when we're watering our yards because we're supposed to be conserving, because we're in a drought, right? And yet, what the city did was pass an ordinance. I want to say that it actually occurred 2020, because I remember reading the markup, right, like it was in the summer, I was at my mom's house, anyway, long story, sorry. But I was like, hey, they're gonna, if the heavy water users pay this 25 cents per 1,000 gallons, they get to be exempt from all of the restrictions in stages 1, 2, and 3. And they had already been pushing the desal stuff, right, for a while. And I was like, so if they're so worried about our water supply, why are you allowing the really big water users
Who take 80%?
who take 80% of our water, why are you allowing them to use as much as they want? And why are you surveilling us when you're telling them, oh, just pay this quarter and then you can do whatever you want with the water? And think about it, guys.
Optional, remember, voluntarily pick that.
Oh yeah,
water.
volunteer.
They don't have to.
And just to add to the dysfunction, this goes in a piggy bank that's a fund that they've tossed around and thrown up in our face, I don't know how many times for desal, that this is gonna fund it. It's the voluntary drought surcharge, the voluntary. Okay, so they told us there's 17 million in that piggy bank, which is wrong. We later find out it's 12 million and change, almost 13 million. And so, but this can only be used to secure more water for them. So they pretend to pay the
Right.
25 cents. They don't really pay it. They get it back. It's for them. It's their piggy bank. It's for when they need more water and they snap their finger at Pusley or Paulette or whoever they snap their finger at for more water. They go, that fund is used for that, not for us.
So, and stop and think about this. That's the other thing that came out in the news where they were saying that last year, before what was going on this year, that water main breaks were like 3 to 5 water main breaks per day. And now we're looking at 20 to 25 breaks per day, right? So you would think, well, okay, you're getting this charge, maybe we can make our infrastructure more sound here. No.
Yeah.
This is for them. Everything is for them, and it's always on our backs, right? It's on our backs, and they want us to turn on each other. And again, this is the problem that happens when we center, or when the elected officials center industry, and we're kind of like an afterthought, or just
Because there are things that they can do without having to shut them down. Like we're realistic as well in thinking that they're, we know we're not gonna shut down industry overnight in our town. That would devastate people.
Yeah.
But there are options. There are things, the effort from them is 0.
Yeah.
They could be recycling. They could be reclaiming water. The conversation between a certain councilman and the water utilities director went like this: have we had that conversation with industry about recycle and reuse? And the answer was no, we have not. And the question's not being asked in a sincere effort. I'm gonna add that too. It's being asked, have we checked that box before the villagers come at us? And so no, why can't we have that conversation? Why can't they have the resources? They have the talent. I mean, these are the most powerful corporations in the world.
The riches.
The richest and the most powerful. And we hear about how great they are and what they're doing for our community and what they're keep the plastic visor and the swag bag and let's talk about some infrastructure or some things to recycle, reclaim some of that water that you guys are using every day.
And so it isn't as if it's not affecting us, right? So they get to use the water the way that they want to. We get the infrastructure, or they get the new infrastructure and the new water resources, and we're left, right, having to script back. And first, right now, it's just our lawns at this point. But this is the thing that was really important, that and it's also something too, Ellie, that we have to talk about the San Pat area with the Zanoni said, our city manager said that we are going to move into stage 2 early. So remember, there's 4 drought restriction stages. The worst one is stage 4. So the industry is exempt from the restrictions from 1 through 3 when they pay this voluntary 25 cents per 1,000 gallons. So I mean, think about it. We're going to get we're gonna get fined $500 for
Every day.
extra watering,
Yeah.
watering, right? And we maybe use 3,000 gallons. I mean, or that's what our allotment is. And it's like, okay, let me pay a quarter so that, you know, and for 1,000, right? And, but I mean, in all honesty, we do need to like watch our water usage, because water is sacred and it's, you know, important, and we shouldn't just be irresponsible with our resources.
Wasteful, right?
And I mean, this isn't, it's a huge issue locally, but we need to conserve like statewide. I mean, we've been seeing like rivers dry up and things like that, and we gotta figure out like what is happening. And, you know, the more that industry, we're seeing it here locally and how much they take here, but we're not seeing it from like the production or like, you know, just like that beginning process.
Right.
Of, you know, that initial stage. And we gotta remember that all of this product that they're, you know, extracting from the earth, all these resources, it's not for us.
Right. Mhm.
You know, at the end of the day, it's not for us. It gets exported to other countries, and so we're suffering the impacts of that
Mhm.
Yeah.
from.
We're at a point, I think we're at a point, maybe beyond it, where we really need to say, okay, what is progress at this time? Is this really progress? Is, you know, 2-3 desal plants in the bay for plastic plants to be to ship off plastic, to have little children making plastic junk in China? Is that progress? Giving up 80% of our water, building 5 desal plants. So the day that, heaven forbid, our children do have to turn to desalination, our children or our grandchildren, they're still gonna be paying for the 5 plants that they build for industry.
Yeah.
And not only that, we get a pushback that says they brought their own plant. Well, okay, did they bring their own water? Cause if they didn't, it's not really gonna help us.
Yeah.
The issue is water. We can't drink plastic. We can't bathe in plastic. We can't, you know, it breaks my heart to see birds just dying in my neighborhood because they don't have water. And I agree with you all. Like, for me, the yard work, the irrigation, I live on a corner and I gave up on that. I don't water that. I mean, it's just, it doesn't die. It's brown, it's hay, it looks sad, but I don't try to keep up with that because I know there are more pressing things.
Yeah.
But the restrictions in stage 2, which I think that is something that needs to be out there and people need to be aware. I feel that those restrictions are unfair. They're far too restrictive on my family. That is the government coming and giving me a ration. Our local municipality is doing this, giving me a ration that doesn't even match the numbers that they're giving in the other, you know, they're giving me 100 gallons a day for a family of 5. You know.
Yeah, so it'll be the resident, so in stage 2, it says residential customers who are not billed, blah, blah, okay, so what'll happen is, a monthly base amount of 3,000 gallons shall be established as a trigger point for each customer. Water consumption up to and including this amount will not include a drought surcharge. So 3,000. That's where Blanca's talking about the 100 gallons per day, right? Above 3,000 gallon monthly consumption trigger point with city council approval. Now here's the language: a drought surcharge shall be added up to and including 100% of the customer's total monthly water bill over the allocation. Right, so it's gonna be a trigger and then it goes down and you're gonna have to pay extra if you go over that amount, whatever it is, and then it'll trick, and we don't know what it is because council will have to decide on what that fee is. But the language is a drought surcharge shall be added up to and including 100% of the customer's total monthly water bill over the allocation.
And that language, allocation, that's what they are gonna say you can have and use. That's very troubling.
At the same time that all those heavy industries get to use as much water as they want, and so we said this before, 80% of the water that we have in our community gets used by heavy industry. Is it Exxon Sabic or Exxon Sabic? Exxon Sabic? What is
It's Exxon Sabich. Savage.
Savage.
The people that stole our water, let's just say that.
The Saudi Arabian royal family.
The kingdom, the
Yeah,
Saudi kingdom.
The kingdom.
So they're using 20 million gallons of water a day, and I did the math. So it is 600. Okay, 20 million gallons of water a day, 600 million gallons of water a month, 7.3 billion gallons of water per year. In Serio, yes.
So I wonder if we could find someone that would tell us how many households that would cover.
It's 21% of all of the customers for the water.
Wow.
So the numbers that we're looking at though, 80 to 20, I don't even know if that's accurate because they're not taking into account Exxon's water use. So it could actually be more like 85, 90, and
There was definitely
10%.
some sort of frenzy in the council chambers over water
Yes.
and over where it's going and over what we're gonna do about it. I would call it almost maniacal.
It felt
yes.
super like
Like I was a little
where's
scared.
the water?
I started filling up bathtubs.
Yeah.
I was scared. I did.
Yeah.
There's something, and then you hear the people at the lake that are wondering, where's the water? Their lake is dried out as well, so.
Yeah. Oh, and I saw a post on the thing that were like, "There's too many people drinking or using the water. Our lake is drying out." Like, it's not us.
It's not
It's not-
people.
It's
It's
Exxon.
not people.
Exxon's 20 million a day.
Yeah.
Steel. The Steel Dynamics plant was 6 million gallons of water a day. I found in the water conservation report from 2020 that Valero was using more than 5 billion a day, and then there was like Lyondell and some other ones. I took a screenshot of it, but combined in 2019, those top five. So Exxon wasn't even up online, or Steel Dynamics was online yet. They were using more than 10 billion gallons of water a year. So it's not us, it's them. And again, it's like, one, they don't pay their fair share. They don't pay taxes. They have industrial district agreements. They get to write memorandums of understanding. Can you imagine? I'd be like, you know what? I've never called the police.
Yeah.
I'd like a memorandum of understanding that I'm not gonna pay their
Yes.
salaries and their training.
Yeah.
Memorandum of understanding. They would never let us do that,
Yeah,
right?
no.
But they get to
There's
do
no
that.
opt out for us.
Yeah.
You can check that off.
Oh, but like you guys, like maybe so we're supposed to tell the people that are like, right,
Yeah.
they're not scaling back on it. We should all tell on the top water
Yeah,
users.
I mean, I haven't driven by the Joel Fulton corridor, in a few weeks, but since this happened, I wonder if there's one of the facilities there where they have the piles of pet coke,
Oh, yeah.
and they have to spray it down with water so
I
that
drove
it
it.
doesn't blow all over the place.
Yeah.
But even before we reached drought conditions, a few months ago, that water wasn't even hitting the pile of pet coke. It was just getting sprayed into the air, and it was already evaporating as soon as they, as soon as it goes up. But are they, doing anything about it now that we're in drought conditions? Are they telling them, hey, maybe that's not a wise idea to be spraying down these piles and piles and piles of pet coke, and that stuff for us to breathe in is really bad. So I get, but that's not an effective way of.
No, it's
I
not.
can imagine that since they're exempt, they're exempt, stage one.
Yeah.
Stage one is irrigation and stuff like that, so
Yeah.
when they get that exemption, they opt out, they get to opt out.
I did, yeah.
And somebody down the line, they sold our water out from under us. And now they wanna do it, now they wanna sell the bait to these same people. And it's.
Oh, something else I wanted to say. I was so mad because I was watching the video of the water report from last week, and the mayor, she was like, "Well, what's taking so long for us to get our permits?" And
I wish I could go tell the TCQ.
do they need some more workers? We'll send some workers. And we're
You don't know we need this permit, actually, what the TCQ knows by now is that she and the port are fighting like cats and dogs. And they're tallying on each other and they're doing all kinds of things.
But I mean, but for real, you think about it, she's gonna offer them labor. She already has her attorney working with them. They have a delegation that goes to the state to go do advocacy work for them. They've got, Councilman Pusley is like, he just irks me, but I'm so appreciative for him to say the things he says, because I bet that they've been doing this behind closed doors the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's talking, I talked to so-and-so and I spent so-and-so and so nobody had an hour-long meeting with them and our delegation and
Did you hear about when he finally, when they finally come up against the wall and say, hey, we're looking at 10 property owners that have property rights here. Did you hear his little exchange, his little nostalgic story of when he had lunch with Chuy Hinojosa?
Oh, yes.
And he said, we might be doing something illegal. And Chuy Hinojosa said, we are the law, or we make the law. So it's a dirty fight. It's a dirty fight.
Yeah.
And they are, I think you said it best. It's
Dirtier than the air we're breathing.
they're mobilizing everything they have.
Okay,
To
what
come.
did I say?
Yeah, you said they're mobilizing everything they got
Yeah.
against us, or to come for this water. It's
And it brings me to that meeting, remember where they're, talking about the cats and dogs situation between the city and the port, where they had the port commissioners and they're saying like, we appointed you, you're supposed to be working for us, and you're
Yeah.
siding with the port and blah, blah, blah. I mean, city member, like residents
Yeah.
voted for the city council.
Yeah.
And time and time and time again, they show that they're not for
They-
us.
they put
No.
them there.
They're for
Yeah.
Now, and so I guess I don't want you guys to like feel despair. I mean, it's easy to get into that space, but I think the other thing that with all this craziness that's happening, I think they're also getting really nervous because they didn't anticipate that 1, people would read, 2, they would ask questions, 3, they would go to attend meetings, but 4, they would share the information and talk about it. And so we have an incredible amount of power. And I think we're just now coming to recognize it. I think actually, I would have never met these mujeres right here who I love, and I would have told them, I was like, we gotta do this because I feel so sad, and then I meet with them and it's terrible, but I love them and they make me laugh, and I feel like more energy and like, and we have power.
Yes.
And the more of us that come together and work together and do this, then they have to respond to us. And the thing is, man, and I don't know if I said this before, but I'm not like a broken record. Everything, that's true, but mine's a good one. It's a good song.
Yeah.
Is that things seem impossible until they're not.
Yeah.
And then change happens, and then people are like, how did that happen? And then they create the story so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
And so like be part of the story.
Yes.
Be part of the
We
story.
need voices at City Hall. We need voices speaking up at these budget input meetings.
Yeah.
We need new names to come
And say.
forward and say, it's time to put us first. And again, we all have different, reasons, and we all have different ideas, and we all have different, I guess, viewpoints on even just the industry. But I think there are some short-term solutions. There's just, it's like if they would just lift a finger, if they would just meet us, not even halfway. We're asking like a quarter of the way, not even a quarter of the way, an eighth of the way, not even an eighth of the way.
Could you stop stabbing us?
Actually, that's like, yeah. Like if y'all could just meet us, like somewhere.
Just meet us. What about Serio?
I feel like a certain councilman that just wants Sean Strawbridge to call him so bad. And I'm not gonna put your names out there, but y'all know who you are. That's how I feel, like the way y'all felt that day, when Strawbridge won't call y'all. And they came in with a little cartoon and kind of just, and wouldn't talk to y'all about the issue at hand. We're there.
And what gives? Every freaking presentation, it's a cartoon.
Really?
It's like,
I know.
Like they don't think we'll understand like data. Cartoon, and it's not even like, and it's not even Full House Rock level. What cartoon?
And they, it's educational, and it's like the first 30 minutes of that presentation had absolutely nothing to do with desalination. The first 30 minutes were the drought program. That's all it was. It was drought, feel guilty, drought, guilt, fear, and guilt. That was pretty much it. It was like, and those of us that grew up like in a Latino home, we don't even Catholic girls.
Yeah, and you don't need to be giving my nephew and niece like any ideas of like, I can't brush my teeth because I can't be using water, like,
I'm not gonna feel guilty about using water to brush my teeth. Because again, we all wanna conserve and we know we have to do our part, yes. But we need to be realistic too, and we need to know the facts, and we need to stop with the lies. And when I say we, I mean all of us. I mean all the humans here, all the restaurants here, all the institutions. That includes schools, hospitals. All of us use 20%. So if we were all to die, like they probably want us to, if we were all to die and our plants were all to die and we were to quit flushing toilet, everything, we would still only conserve 20% of our water. So what we use is, pardon my language, a piss in the ocean. Okay, a piss in the ocean. So we need the big, heavy, large volume water users to meet us somewhere. And we need elected officials that are willing to be a good middleman.
Yes.
They put themselves in this position of middleman with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And then we're gonna go fight them?
Yeah.
We need you all to step up, you know?
Yeah.
I don't wanna take, I don't
No,
know the
we're
time.
not-
I get really crazy.
No, girl,
Yeah.
no.
It's really, it's becoming an existential thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's no longer like, I'm anti, you know, the tree huggers and the this and the that. This is an existential thing. This is everybody. Everybody.
Crisis mode.
Mhm.
You know, and like, so we're coming to you with, you know, information where if you want to get involved, please like reach out to us and say like, okay, like, what can I do? You know, like you hold a lot of power. At the end of the day, it's the people who make the change.
Mhm.
It's that people power. And you know, we gotta demand better.
Yes.
We gotta demand, you know, things and not just take these little scraps that they try to give us, like all of these ribbon cuttings and like, oh, you know, we use your taxpayer money to build this pier, but we're getting the pat on the back for doing that for you.
So actually, okay, this is something, it's not about that, but I'm just curious with you guys. But like my girls were like, hey mom, hey, I clean my room, aren't you so proud of me? I was like, no, like you're supposed to clean your room. I'll be proud of you when you do something exceptional.
Yeah.
But like when what you're supposed to do is just what you're supposed to do. It's like jobs too. It's your job. You do your job.
Yeah.
Like when you want it's above and beyond. At this point, they're not even representing us.
No.
They're like pointing their fingers at us so that industry can keep doing what it does. I mean, in Serio, they're not talking at all about, I mean, they like let facts leak and I record that. I'm like, save it.
Yeah.
Because those nuggets of truth we need so that we understand what's really happening in here.
And we piece it all together like crazy. We do. And we hope
Like
that you're
engaged
listening.
individuals, not
Yeah.
crazy.
Exactly.
They're making us crazy, but you know, we're paying attention.
And when you do pay attention, you should feel a little offended, and you should feel a little sense of injustice in what's happening, because there is a big injustice happening right now in Corpus Christi, and it's happening right under our noses. And the future for our kids, for me, that's the biggest one. Like my kids, it doesn't, and they may not end up here and they may move away, but it's like Elida said, this isn't just happening in Corpus Christi. It's happening everywhere. We just saw up in the San Marcos, Austin area where they had to come out and defend their spring because it was gonna be sold to investors, billionaires coming in from California that were gonna help themselves to that, you know, and it's happening all over Texas. There's billionaires and investors coming for what we have, which is water. It's happening up and down the coast and in California as well. A lot of people assume that everything that happened in California was because of the people, because of migration, because it was the same thing. Billionaires, corporations, investors, they came in and bought. It's all water now, guys. It's water.
Water is a commodity.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, that's what they're, coming for. And I wish we knew like how they tracked how much, of this gets consumed. Because, where I live in Taft, we had a grain elevator there that was using water for almost 40 years and it wasn't accounted for. So, it's like, well, how did they not figure out that this was being taken? So if they were able to do that, like, water is being used up way too fast. And it's like, what is really happening with it?
And the trust is
supporting
broken.
it.
The
Yeah.
trust is broken because of the way they've treated us, because of the way that they have dismissed the desalination, because of the efforts that we've seen to just circumvent democracy, the town hall budgets that were a sham, they were a joke. The trust is gone. The trust is gone. We do not trust these people that are in power here locally to do what's right. They've shown me that they cannot be trusted.
And we put it back on them, like, if you look at our stuff, you'll see that our receipts are their words. It's their reports, right? It's news articles, not news articles from the Corpus areas, because Corpus media is so but there's other stuff like Rolling Stone, that San Antonio's paper will cover what's happening in Corpus better than what Corpus does. Reuters, yeah.
And their own language in these workshops that we aren't supposed to be listening to. Their own language, their own conversations, their own admissions that they come out and say when they think no one's looking and they think no one's listening, have really led us to. So I guess for me, I just want to, yes, conserve, and yes, have that present. Like our mayor said, she wants this on repeat year round. We should be feeling guilty, even if we're just washing our makeup off our face. And so, yes, keep that narrative, but use that not to make you feel guilty, but to motivate you or inspire you to speak up. Speak up. Any kind of campaign thing that you're invited to or involved in, or any politician that wants your vote, bring this issue up, because it is. And don't take crumbs or nonsense for an answer. It's 80-20 that they're taking, and they are opt out of restrictions, and they are coming with rations of water. So take those 3 issues to your councilman, take them to an email, take them to a council meeting, tell your neighbor, even if you just tell your neighbor. We have to, I guess for me, the lies, enough of the lies. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah, because you can't make good decisions if you don't have good information.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And evading the truth, like, what if people file, a public information request? First of all, why did it even have to get to that? Where's the transparency? And then, every request that they don't want to comply with, they send that to the attorney general. So that they can get a decision on it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's a waste of resources. Man.
I noticed that in the Caller Times article that called us roadblocks, the Port of Houston handed over public information to Caller Times with no issue. And our port lawyered up and said, no, they wouldn't hand over. So what does that tell you? The Port of Houston handed over public record with no issue whatsoever. And our own port wouldn't give our own local paper any information without lawyering up and referring it to, I guess, Austin.
And so when public entities and public officials hide behind lawyers and executive session,
they're not working for you.
Right, they've got something to hide. And I even think it might even be their incompetence, because it's coming back to bite them in the ass now that people are actually paying attention. And rather than owning up to that fact, they're hiding. But again, like, and they'll dismiss us, but with if new voices come in.
Yeah.
Then you know, it's harder for them to, right? It's harder for them
To ignore.
A lot harder. And, you know, this is something that they count on. They count on people, you know, not having the time to go and seek the information. And then they make that information so hard to find in the first place. Even when they hold public meetings, they're not held in accessible areas. Like they were deciding something in Flint Hills, Ingleside, and they had the meeting in Portland. You know, or things that were affecting Hillcrest, they, you know, they have them elsewhere, you know, so they don't make this accessible, and it's by design. And this was just something that came out from, you know, before ExxonMobil got built here, or Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, the Saudi Arabian company. It had environmental groups did not have a strong presence in San Patricio County due to its location north of Corpus Christi Bay. Corpus Christi has consistent environmental activity, and those groups should be monitored to ensure efforts do not migrate to San Patricio. And targeted investment outside ENGOs with anti-Exxon campaign could challenge the project, and considerable opportunity to partner with conservation organizations like, you know, what is that?
coastal bend bays and estuaries.
Yeah. Which, you know, is an industry sponsored event, but they go out with a lot of, you know, propaganda on why things are good because it's funded by them.
Yeah.
But this is like in their own words and writing. They don't want you to be informed. They don't want you to find out what's happening. They don't want you to be
And they want us
angry.
divided.
Mhm.
They want us divided.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but we don't want that because what we want is streets that you don't always have to get a wheel alignment. You know, you want to be able to drive down these streets. You want to be able to have a park that has, you know, playground equipment that's safe,
Yes.
that's actually got shade because it's really, really hot out there. You know, you want green spaces. You know, we want to be able to go to the beach and like how my niece doesn't even want to swim in this water because she's like, it's dirty.
It is. It's got gaga in it.
So it's like, you know, we are just wanting a clean air and clean water and, you know, having like we wanna have a
Functional
future,
infrastructure and
Yeah.
I
you
mean,
know.
that's sad. So like,
As someone who really, my stomping ground is pretty much northwest Corpus Christi into Portland, it's. What is that? Like, what is that? What is that? You know, we have people. Kind of going in and praising them in council meetings for what they're doing on North Beach, and it's kind of like. I don't really see anything wonderful in North Beach area. I see a bridge dangling there. I see just North Beach completely neglected, being run, let go, I guess. I'm not sure what their plans are for there.
Oh my
I
god.
heard a politician say that was the next Central Park.
No, and then speaking of bridges, next time we gotta talk about that.
Oh,
That's about
yeah,
it. The Harbor Bridge,
There's
that,
a reason that we don't know anything about.
yeah.
yeah.
There's a reason that it's all hush hush and, you know, just use some of that to motivate you.
All right, so Elida's got to get back to
Yeah.
work. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Leave a message in our comments if you want to work with us. All right, take care. Bye.